Welcome to The Sear Show. Join us as we explore medicine, health, mental health, mindset, and fitness, guided by lifelong seeker of knowledge, Sifu Raphael. He will lead us on a transformative journey with groundbreaking insights and extraordinary guests from around the world. Together, we'll dive into the latest holistic approaches to well-being and the profound connections between mind, body, and soul. Sifu Raphael's expertise in positive thinking, resilience, and personal growth will inspire you to reach new heights. Get ready for The Sear Show. It's time to embrace a brighter, healthier, and more empowered future.
5, 4, 0.
Good morning, Nikki. Thank you so much for joining me on the Sear Show. How are you this morning?
I'm excellent, Sifu Raphael. Thank you for having me. Super
Yes,
excited to be here.
I'm loving your smile. Why are you smiling?
Well, because I'm excited to be here. I love the intro. That was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And you're a ball of energy, I got to tell you. When I met you recently, it was such a pleasure to meet you. And you bring so much, not only energy, but knowledge to any situation. And I know that we want to talk about calming the chaos that surrounds us, right?
Mm.
How do we get to the middle of that storm and be calm?
Oh, well, we go within,
Yes, we do.
right? We stop, right?
Mm.
When we become aware of that and we just kind of lean back and go inside. And that's where the quiet is.
Yeah. That is a beautiful
Mhm.
place to be, right?
Yeah, it can be. Yeah. When you can get control of those thoughts, because sometimes when we go inside and we're stuck in our thoughts, it's sometimes not so nice, but we can quiet those thoughts.
We can. We can. Everybody watching, thank you so much for joining us. Please go ahead and feel free to throw some comments in there. Diana, thank you. Good morning to you. I really appreciate you being here. So when we have to sometimes quiet the thoughts, but do we sometimes want to energize those thoughts as well?
Oh, yeah. Well, depending on the content.
Mm,
So, yeah, when the thoughts are motivating, when they're positive, yeah, then we would like to energize those and use those to fuel us. It's when we
mm,
recognize the negative self-talk and they're negative that we want to quiet those and we want to replace them with more resourceful thoughts, ones that feel better and that actually serve us and help us in whatever the goal is that we have.
mm. So not only are we the ones guilty of having those thoughts, but other people kind of want to drive those thoughts into us. How do we even learn how to navigate all the millions of messages that are coming at us daily?
So many messages. And
Mm,
a lot of the messages we received when we were kids, when we were real little, and something happened, and then we decided that it meant something. I was talking to a client just the other day, and she said, when I was about 3 years old, my dad was supposed to pick me up and take me to the park, and he didn't show up.
mm,
And that meant I'm not important. I don't matter. And then so we take, right? We take something like that and then we start to look for evidence to support it. And it's like, oh, see, I knew it. I don't matter. And then
mm.
we take that with us from 3 years old into adulthood. And now we're with our spouse and he shows up late or doesn't show up for dinner when he said he was supposed to. And it's that same default programming that's running. Sometimes we're aware of it, a lot of times we're not, because it's been there for decades.
Wow, that just made me think of not only you said my spouse doesn't show up, or maybe they're a little late, but what happens on the weekends when people are sitting watching sports and things don't get done because now someone else is going, wow, not only do I not matter, the kids don't matter, the house doesn't matter, all these different things. So how can we, anybody who is guilty of saying, hey, you know what? It's Super Bowl, I'm going to watch, or it's just football day, or it's golf, or whatever sports, or baseball, whatever sports you're watching, that all of a sudden it does seem like nothing else matters except what's on television. How do we navigate that if we're the ones watching, but meanwhile we want to make someone else feel like, hey, it's not that you don't matter, it's that I'm just a little bit interested in this at the moment. How do we navigate those waters?
Yeah, well, I think you just said it. Communication is key. And communicating that to your spouse just the way you said it, it was beautiful, right? It's like you're important, and for right now, I want to watch the game. And then when it's over, we could do this. So I think always staying in communication and knowing the person that you're in a relationship with, right? Knowing so that you can honor that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you just said it also as well as communication. It's getting to understand the other person. And I know both of us are in the code breaker,
Yeah.
and we have our codes, right? And we understand that we function a certain way, but a lot of people don't. Maybe they don't get us. They don't understand us, or we don't understand them. And so, understanding what makes another person tick, it kind of, a light bulb goes off, right? When we can
Oh
go,
yeah.
now I understand. And oh my
Yeah.
gosh, where was I? What was I thinking? Because now I get it. Now I understand why they don't want to go to a party. Maybe, and I love going to parties. Or and I had a couple who came to a lot of the parties. I used to throw parties all the time, and they came to the party, and I was thrilled that they were there. But meanwhile, they came to the party. They talked to no one. They stayed together,
Mhm.
and it's almost as if they were part of the room. They were they were like lampshades. And I would go to them and I would go, "Hey, I'm so happy you're here. How are you? Did you have this? Did you have that? Did you meet so and so?" And they're like, "Oh, and they would try to, as much as they could, to not mingle. And I always ask myself, I'm like, they're strange, but I like them. They're nice people. They're really great people. And they showed up. And it wasn't just a one-time deal. They kept showing up to anytime I had a party. I would always invite them, but it's almost like I always knew their behavior at the party.
Right.
And now I understand. They wanted to be included. They just didn't know how to include themselves.
Mm,
They would talk to anybody who came to them, but then they would never approach another person. So maybe it's their upbringing, maybe it's the way their character is, but they would never approach a person first. And they found each other, which is great,
yeah.
right? They were able to be together, but they would never engage.
Right.
What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are, everything that you just said, it could be their upbringing, it could be the way they are. And then I went right to, And it could be an underlying belief that they have about themselves. Years ago, one of my friends said to me, she goes, Nikki, you never initiate calling or wanting to go out. It's always me that has to call or text you. I'm always the one that has to make the plans. Do you even care about this friendship?
Mm.
And to me, it was like, what I had in my mind is, if someone wants to spend time with me, they'll reach out to me. And if they don't, then that means they're not interested. And that goes way back to grade school and being on the playground and not being included in the jump rope game, and it's like this belief, I don't fit in, or nobody wants me. And
Mm.
so that's like an example of how we can carry something like that from childhood into adulthood, and how we still operate from that.
Yeah. So this is why I'm fascinated by people's upbringing. I really am. I know you kind of heard my story about my upbringing. You only heard, excuse me, a tiny little bit of it. But I believe that our upbringing can help us in two directions: in the place, in the direction we want to go, or in the direction we don't want to go because of our childhood. So a lot of times, and I had a rough upbringing, but for me, it's always, how do I make life better for others? How can I be of service? Because I didn't have that. So for me, it's always, how can I be of help? How can I assist? And a lot of times I'm always like, people like, how much do I have to pay you for that? I'm like, I'm just here to help. You don't have to pay me anything. Like, really? I'm like, yeah.
And where did that come from? That, because you didn't grow up with that. Where did that, how can I serve? How can I assist?
You really want to know?
I do. I'm curious.
Because I really didn't get any help
Hmm.
when I needed it. So I said, what would my life have been had I gotten to help? So then I said, I don't want to go in, I don't want to ever live in the what ifs. That's not me. Or what should haves, or what could haves. I'm an action taker. And for me, it's, if somebody drops something, I'm not going to wait to see how they pick it up. If they struggle with it, no, I'm going to be right there and say, let me help you up. Or even not even say anything. I'm going to just help. And then, so for me, my purpose in life is to help as many people as I can. And I think that what you do is also in that realm of helping people, because you understand that the words we use not only affect the world around us, but affects our world. And when I say our world, because we all live in our own world. You're in the Nikki world, I'm in the Sifa Raphael world, everybody listening is in their world, but we share a world together, right? So what is the difference that we can make, not only in our world, but in the overall world? It said that we are frozen. I think that was a little while ago, but thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Jeff. Jeff is here.
Yeah, appreciate you being with us. And so, Nikki, you've had certain career changes, and you went from acting to teaching to an entrepreneur to helping people really understand themselves some. What do you think made you go on that journey? Because there's a purpose. I believe there's a purpose to everything. So you went into acting. What was that thought pattern that made you go into there to really put yourself out there?
Yeah, well, acting is something that I've always wanted to do from the time that I was a kid. And what I loved about acting was I got to be somebody other than me. I did not like being in my own skin. I did not like being in my own head. I struggled with a lot of negative thoughts growing up. So when I
Mm,
was acting, I got to pretend to be somebody else. And that felt really good. It was kind of like an escape. So I loved it. And I love doing comedy in acting. And so that's how that started. I just love to pretend. And it was really great to be on the stage and have an audience in front of you and help them escape from their reality. And for those 2 hours, they were just in this other world and you had them laughing and that just felt really good to me. So that was something that I always loved. I gave up on it.
mm,
That brings me to where I am today and why I want to help other people. But I had all those thoughts, like, I don't have what it takes. This is really a tough industry. All the lies that we tell ourselves. We take other people's words and sometimes we accept them as fact. And then we put them on autopilot and we just keep repeating them.
mm,
So, I took the leap and I moved across the country from New Jersey to LA following a 5-year breakup. That was the trigger. This guy I was dating with, he ended the relationship. And I was like, oh my God, who am I without him? We were together 7 days a week. Now
wow.
what? And I'm like, this is the perfect time to go pursue acting. And I moved across the country. But I gave myself 1 year and I ignored all the opportunity that was right in front of me. I didn't see it at the time. Hindsight is 2020.
Right.
But I came back home and it's like, okay, now I'm 24. What do I do? I had no idea what I wanted to do. I majored in something my parents chose for me, public communications. It's like, what do I do with this degree? And
Mm,
then I followed again the suggestions of others. You come from a family of teachers. It's a rewarding career. Be a teacher.
mm,
That's how I pivoted from acting into teaching. But I always felt like it was square peg, round hole. Like
mm.
it didn't fit. And I was just going through the motions and feeling bad for not feeling what everybody else felt. Like this is such a rewarding career and all of that.
Mm.
So, I stayed. I played the role. I did it for 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I was really good at following the rules and doing what I was told to do and doing it well. And then there's something that happens as you get older. I don't know if you've experienced this, where you just stop caring so much about what others say and think. And it's like, well, what about me?
Mhm.
And that was the age of 40. It was like a early midlife crisis.
Yeah.
How did I get here? How did I do everything that I was told to do and didn't get the outcomes that were promised, specifically the husband and the kids? So I really started looking at things. I started questioning, and that's something that I tell people: question everything you've been told, question everything you tell yourself, because a lot of times we get it wrong. We're playing the wrong game.
You do. You do. I actually I was teaching a class yesterday, and I had all of my students teach each other. I had the ones that were more knowledgeable teach the ones with less knowledge. And then I said to them, you have two choices when you're being taught. You can just take it for granted that they're correct, or you can ask questions to clarify. And it was an exercise. And I said, you have 2 minutes to do it. And 2 minutes came up. I'm like, who needs more time? They all raised their hand. I said, okay, I'll give you 2 more minutes. And then afterwards, I said, okay, what did you learn? And they told me what they learned. And then I said, what questions did you ask? They're like, oh, I didn't ask any questions. I said, okay, you're going to switch. Now somebody else is going to teach you. So that slowly they started to ask questions. And I said, so here's the question for you guys. Do you believe everything I teach you? They'll put their hands up. And I said, what if I've been lying to you this whole time? And man, the look on their faces was priceless.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. So I said to them, I said, you've been taught your whole life not to question authority. I said, but I want you to be better than that. I want you to understand for yourself, not because you've been told this is the only way. There's more than one way. There's more than one way to see something, to look at it from a different perspective, right? Because what you can see on a video, someone else saw different. So then I kept doing the exercise with them. And then at the end of everything, I said, so who likes teaching? And only half, actually it was half of them put their hands up. And the ones that didn't like teaching were the newer ones. And I said, I understand why you don't like teaching. Let me ask you if I'm correct on this or not. I said, you don't like teaching because you're not an authority, right? And they said, yes. I said, okay. I said, but let me ask you, could you teach something? They're like, I don't know. I said, you think you know nothing, right? I said, let me ask you a question. How many of you can know how to tie your shoes? They all raised their hand. I said, okay. Can you teach that? And they all turned around. They said, maybe. I said, can you teach that to a 4-year-old? They're like, yeah. I said, okay. So it's the belief that you can do something, but you also have to question. And I think that's the reason I went through this whole thing, is to let everybody know that we need to question even ourselves sometimes, because we're believing everything everybody told us.
Yeah.
So all along, are we questioning authority? And just because someone said, this is the way, is it? And just because you heard it on the internet doesn't mean it's right either, right?
That's right. That's a huge lesson that you gave those kids, to question everything.
Actually,
Yeah.
they were not kids.
Oh, they weren't kids.
No, they were not kids.
Oh, okay, they were older.
They were adults.
They were adults. Okay.
Yeah.
Still, because I didn't learn that until really my 30s. The lesson of questioning everything, especially the stuff we've been told by authority. That's a really good point. We listen to somebody that either we look up to or we see as an authority, and we take it to be the truth. And sometimes, and we've all done this. I know, especially being when I was a teacher for all those years, I know I've, out of anger or frustration, I've said things, right? So we all, that probably impacted a kid in a negative way. And we all do that. We all say things that we don't mean because we're in an emotional state that's not the most resourceful. One person in my life said to my mother, I had tattletale, in first grade, and the person I told on got in trouble. And the father of the girl told my mom, your daughter needs to wear a muzzle. What I made that mean at the ripe old age of 6 is it's not safe to speak up. And then that became a belief, and it became a story, and I started looking for evidence of it. And what you focus on grows. You look for something, you're going to find it. And I found all this evidence for why I should sit on the sidelines, play it small, try to stay under the radar. And that has a lot that impacts your life in big ways. So
that makes sense now why you went into acting, because you can say anything and it wasn't you.
Exactly. Exactly. When I was playing a character, that wasn't me.
No.
That was the character. So it was safe. I felt very safe on a stage. Doesn't matter the size of the audience, as long as it wasn't me and it was a character. Hmm.
So when you consider looking back at your life, you told me earlier that your parents put you or suggested, and you did, you went through communication. But now that is part of what you do.
It is.
Sometimes people put us in a trajectory that we don't understand at the time, right? Maybe you didn't understand. Why do I need to do this communication stuff? Nonsense. I don't need that. But meanwhile, with NLP, every word,
Mm.
every word. I want everybody to think about this for a second. Imagine you had a person that was following you everywhere you went, except the bathroom, maybe. And this person was a stenographer, a court stenographer. And every word you uttered would be printed. And those words can be used against you.
Mm.
How would you speak then? What words would you use? How would your pattern of speaking change? And would you think first before you blurted anything out? Would you be reactive, or would you be thoughtful before you spoke? Can you imagine that?
Oh, yeah. I
That'd be,
would say a lot less.
it would make a lot of people not say,
Hmm.
or even like you said, speak less. But in court, if you are in court and you're under oath and you're asked a question, a lot of times the emotions, even in court, people in court always say the wrong thing. And even though they were told, they see the stenographer, they see the lawyer, they see the judge, they see the jury, they see the audience, they still say things that trip them up.
Hmm.
And that's because of what? The emotions that words have an effect on us. So the lawyers understand, and the great lawyers, my God, do they know NLP really well? They understand that these are the trigger words that are going to get you speaking, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Our emotions definitely cloud our judgment. We go into that fight or flight. We don't have access or a lot of access to logic. We say a lot of things that we wouldn't if we were in a more resourceful state, whether that's just calm, when we could think clearly then.
So we're talking about your calm method, right? And why is that such an important aspect to understand? Because you talked about having clarity through your calm method. Would you mind sharing?
I'd love to. Yes.
Let's do it. Let's do
Let's
it.
do it.
Yeah.
So the calm method, and I want to say this. So it's called the calm method because calm is an acronym, the CALM, for how to go from the chaos in your mind to this quiet where you feel grounded and confident and you can make empowering decisions. And it's not just about calm, right? Like we don't do the calm method because I just want to be calm. It leads to feeling motivated, feeling empowered, feeling happy, feeling, like you're on the top of the world. So it's just getting you into a resourceful state where you could then make decisions that are aligned with what you want. That's the purpose of it. And do you want me to go through each of those steps?
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Okay. So the
Because
calm the calm method, I'll start with this. This is a great method and it's a tool, right? It's a framework for how to manage your emotions and how to change your thoughts. Something that wasn't really drilled into us or even taught in school. So this is just a foundation for how to think for yourself and think in new ways. And you can use it anytime you find yourself in a situation that you don't like how you feel or you don't like the result that you're getting and you want to change it. So it really can be used for anything in any area of your life. And the C in calm is to become conscious of how you feel. Sometimes we don't know all of the thoughts that we're thinking because we can have thousands and thousands of them, right? So the gateway in is through our emotions. So if we just stop and ask, what am I feeling right now? How am I feeling? So become conscious of how you feel. And it could be frustrated, it could be angry, it could be overwhelmed. You just decide what it is. And sometimes you don't even have to label it. You could just say, you know what? I'm feeling some resistance right now. And that's good enough. And then you want to just take a like 90 seconds and you want to let the emotion process. And we could do that by breathing, taking some mindful breaths. You could do a 4 square breathing and just breathe through the emotion and just let it dissipate. That's it for step 1. Conscious of the emotion, take some deep breaths. Any
I love it.
questions or anything before I move on to the next? I don't want to overwhelm people.
No, I love it. You know what I'm noticing
Yeah.
as I'm looking at you? I'm noticing something I want to share with you.
Mhm. Sure.
I'm noticing that we both have the same word up. Do you see it?
Oh my God, I do. I didn't see you have the word believe.
See that?
Now I see it. You brought it to my attention and it was there the whole time.
When we and the cool thing about this is that we have the word and it's written up differently. It looks different, but it's the same. It's the same, but yet it's different. Everyone, right? So I
Yeah.
just thought I'd share that with you.
I'm glad you did because I did not notice it until you brought it to my attention. And that's really what we're talking about when we're saying become conscious of how you're feeling. And that leads us into the next step, the A of calm, which is aware. We can't change what we're not aware of. You're out to lunch and you're having a salad and you have a little lettuce in your teeth and you don't until someone makes you aware, you can't remove it. Now, can you? You've got to be aware that it's there and then you can choose to do something about it. So A in calm is become aware of the thoughts you're thinking. It's typically thoughts that are triggering the emotion, typically. So it's getting those thoughts out of your mind and onto paper so you can process them differently. And then pretending you're a lawyer and putting those thoughts on trial. Are these thoughts hard facts? Are they truths? Or are they beliefs, interpretations, attitudes, opinions?
Mm.
And so you put those thoughts on paper. Oh, you're going to say something.
No, no, no. I was like, yeah, I'm agreeing with you here.
Yeah, it's have you ever had a thought in your mind and then you go and you share it with someone and then you backpedal? Well, that's not exactly what I meant. Because you hear it differently when you speak it out loud versus
Mhm,
just thinking it in your mind.
mhm, mhm.
And it's the same thing
And
when you write.
that's what I was going to say. I love the fact that you brought up writing because I write everything. So
Mhm.
I use Remarkable too. I used to use like 5 different journals, but now I'm able to put it all in one. And you're right, because a lot of times it's just like you can't unsee something,
Yeah.
you can't unsay something. Right? You can't. It's
Yeah.
just I mean, if you're by yourself, you can say anything you want out loud. But the minute someone else hears you, those words are already spoken. You cannot put them back.
Mhm. That's right.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's different thinking the thought, writing the thought, and then speaking it. So you write the thoughts out on paper, and then you put each one on trial and you ask fact or belief,
Mm.
or opinion or attitude or a worry. And most times the thoughts are not facts. Sometimes they are. I'll give an example, and I share this in the book as well, about this client who was feeling like her voice didn't matter. Her husband would make important family decisions and not include her in the decision making process. And so the circumstance was that she was feeling some resentment and anger towards her husband and a little bit sad, that was conscious of how she was feeling. Aware of the thoughts she was thinking, the one thought was, my husband doesn't include me in making decisions, important decisions. And when I said, is that a fact? She goes, yes, Nikki, he doesn't ask for my opinion. So when something is a fact, that's where you ask a follow-up question and you ask, what am I making this mean? Because we assign a meaning to everything. And when I asked her, what are you making that mean about you? And she said that my voice doesn't matter, that I don't matter.
Man, I feel
So,
for her.
right. And isn't that pretty much universal?
Mm.
Many people have thought that their voice doesn't matter, that they don't matter. So that's what we put on trial. So you get to the deeper, you get to like, what is the belief behind that thought? And that's what we changed. So when we move into the third step, which is the L, that's lean into what else is possible. So if this thought is not a fact, what's another option? What else might be true? And that's where you start reframing those thoughts. And that's where she came up with, what if my voice is important? And it's kind of like a bridge, right? It's like she didn't believe it yet, but it's like, what if what I have to say is important? And we did some other work to help her to just release that belief and replace it. But that's what the L is. It's reframing, leaning into other possibilities and options. And then the M in calm is make a new decision. So now that you've processed the emotion, you've looked at the thoughts, put them on trial, you've replaced them with new empowering thoughts, what's the new decision? And then take immediate action on it before you talk yourself out of it.
Mm. Love
So
it.
that's a quick look at calm.
I really appreciate you going through it with us. I think by you telling us the story of this young lady and her husband, it actually brings up the thought of it takes two to tango,
Mhm.
right? And it's also, I believe, his beliefs of why he did these things. And so it's a deeper work that they both have to do in order to salvage that marriage, because if that continued, that marriage would falter. And I
Well, and it
believe that
was. Yeah.
it was faltering.
It was. She
So,
had said that they were talking about divorce papers when the kids got older.
mm,
It was a problem. It ended up being a happy ending. She said, I made my way back to my husband. And that started with her doing the work inside of herself and feeling like she's a whole lot more worthy. And then that
yes,
changes how other people treat us, right? When we show up differently, it's kind of like a ripple effect.
doubt, without a doubt. Listen, if you showed up every day with curlers and a bathrobe, people are going to assume that's who you are, right? Like, oh, you come today with curlers and a bathrobe.
Yeah.
But and you said it, it's how you show up in the world. It's also how you perceive yourself. So for me, it's always, I tell my clients, I said, do you look in the mirror? They're like, yeah, of course I look in the mirror. I said, no, I mean, raw, in the raw. Look in the mirror. What do you see? Who do you see? And then the other question is, do you love that person? How deeply do you love them? Right? Because that's one of the things that happens with us is that we don't really look at us. There was an experiment they did in the wild, and they actually put a mirror. It wasn't glass, it was some sort of plastic in the wild. And they had all these animals walk by it, and they were shocked. Some of them jumped, some of them growled, some of them attacked because they never seen themselves. And they thought it was another animal attacking them or threatening them. So when we look in the mirror, are we threatened by what we see? And I thought that was a pretty cool experiment because I think
Yeah.
that people pass by a mirror. Don't get me wrong, if you're a bodybuilder, you're looking in the mirror all day long, right? If you're a model, you're looking through the camera, you're looking. But if you're not in the spotlight, like a bodybuilder or an actress or a model, are you really looking in the mirror, not just to comb your hair or to, you know, uh, tighten up your clothes or whatnot, but are you looking at the person? Are you looking deeper? And the question that I have for most people is, how long do you do it for? And do you really look into your own eyes? Or do you just look? Do you look deep? And it's pretty fascinating when you can actually look into the mirror for more than a minute intently. I encourage everybody to try it.
Mhm.
It's really eye-opening.
It is. When I did it, it was a little uncomfortable. I was doing this exercise where you look in the mirror and you look at yourself in your own eyes and you tell yourself that you love yourself. And the first time I did it, it was very uncomfortable. It was very hard
Mm.
because it's not, you know, it was new, right? Anything that you do for the first time, it's different. It could be uncomfortable. So yeah, I recommend doing that exercise as well. It is eye-opening.
I had I ran a program, you know, when The Biggest Loser TV show was on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I ran a program with a doctor, an actual physician, and we did The Biggest Loser, and we gave away $1,000 to whoever lost the most weight. One of the exercises that we did every week when they would come, we put them through workouts, that we did blood work, we did all this crazy stuff with them. And they all did really well. But one of the exercises was they had to look in front of the mirror where we all were there. They couldn't look at they had to go, I have huge mirrors. So they had to walk up to the mirror, be this close to the mirror, and not look at the other person who was 2 feet away from them. And then just look and not say a word. Just whatever thoughts came to your mind, let them be. Can I tell you how many people started crying?
Hmm.
People got mad. They
Yeah.
got, I mean, mad. Where we actually had one person cursing themselves out
Wow.
because they were mad at themselves for allowing themselves to become overweight.
Hmm.
And that person, they didn't lose the most weight, but they lost weight. And they did
Yeah.
it because they felt for the first time, and they even said it afterwards, for the first time in their life, they felt a connection to themselves. And I was like, holy cow, forget the
Right.
weight. It doesn't mean anything.
Hmm.
It's who you are.
Yeah.
And I know that you help people with what you do. You help people find who they are. Why
Hmm.
do that, Nikki? Why are you doing that?
Why I'm doing that is because That is something that I struggled with and allowed to hold me back very much so. I hated the person that I saw in the mirror. I
Mm.
hated when I heard myself. It was like, oh my God, is that how I sound? My self image was very poor.
Mm.
Um, and like I talked about the ripple effect before. We think something of ourselves, um, and for me, it was just, yeah, it was not only a poor self image, but it was a low self worth. From where do I fit in the world to, I'm not wanted, and that translated to who would want to even spend their life with me and marry me,
Mm.
so that there's an impact there of always being single, right? And then not having your own family and all that. So, all unnecessary. If we go back to questioning everything you've been told, everything that you've told yourself, everything that you believe, that could have all changed. So what drives me is helping people wake up,
Mm.
because we're in this nightmare. Sometimes I was going to say dream, but sometimes it's a nightmare. And it's not real. It feels very real, just like when you're dreaming, right? Do you
Mm.
ever wake up from a dream or a nightmare and your body has, like, you've had a visceral reaction, you were sweating or your heart was beating? Like, it feels very real.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not. So what I love helping people do is to really upgrade that self-talk, because we are the meanest. Recently I was saying a couple of things to myself about myself. And I did this little exercise in my head where I imagined myself telling that to my 2.5-year-old godson. And I felt awful, because I
Mm.
would never say those things to him. And I was seeing his face as, in response to the words I was saying. And I was like, if I wouldn't say that to him, why would I say it to myself?
Mm.
He is me, he's blood, and I'm just a bigger version right now because I'm an adult. So, it's really questioning the stuff that you tell yourself. So I'm telling you, there's these universal beliefs that we have, and I hear it in the clients that I work with. Can I handle this? I don't have what it takes. Who am I? I'm not good enough. I don't matter. I'm not important. It's like, it's very common. So I really like to help people change that, because that's really not helpful. It doesn't help us achieve what we want in life.
Not at all. Not at all. I got to tell you, I love the fact that you're an onion, and I want to keep peeling. Running out of time. So we actually we've gone over a little bit, and I want to stay here for a while. But actually, what I would love for you to do is come on my other shows, and the show I really want you to come on is called Coaching Call, because I want to dive deep into you, right? How you became who you are, even from your childhood, and you told us a little bit about it. I'm still interested now. So thank you for today. It has been amazing, and I'm just so happy that you and I connected. And sometimes we go to a place and we don't know who we're going to meet. We don't know who's going to affect our lives in one way or another. And I think that I don't know how you feel about when you meet someone and all of a sudden they they touch you in a certain way, and you're like, wow, that person made me feel something. And for me, that's a beautiful thing, right? And sometimes
Yeah.
it made you feel something negative or something positive. We don't know till
Mhm.
we meet someone. So thank you for making me feel positive. I appreciate
Aw,
you.
you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity, and giving me this space to have this conversation with you. And I hope that it has impacted or inspired people in some way.
Oh, I know. It inspired me. Are you kidding?
Mission accomplished.
I always say if we can touch upon one person in a positive way, I think we're doing our job, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's all it takes, right? One person
That's
at a
right.
time.
One person at a time.
Nikki, don't go away, but we're going to say goodbye to everybody. Everybody, thank you so much. I hope that you will join us again on this here show. Have yourself an exceptional day.